This is Keyed In with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Keyed In podcast. I'm your host, Max Rabin.
And I'm Brent Jackson.
Brent, I feel like I haven't seen you in like
a month.
It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
So, yeah, because we did one recording where you were in Florida, I think.
In Florida, and then I think you were gone, and then I was gone, and then I think you were gone.
I think I was gone 1 week because I was at the tennis tournament up the street, and I refused to come down here because I just wanted to watch tennis.
Correct.
So sorry about that.
And then I think you had somebody got COVID at the camp, one of your camp counselors.
Yes, there was also
like
a camp thing.
So,
it's been a
busy
summer.
summer.
A fun summer.
Yes.
So our guest today is Harrison Beecher. Harrison Beecher is a DC native, and he's the managing partner of the Coalition Properties Group. In 2022, that's right now, Harrison serves as the GCAAR president, that's Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors, DCAR's at-large director, the National Association of Realtor director representing DC, and the National Broker Engagement Council chair. It's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
That's a lot. And then you're also running your sales team as a Coalition Properties. That's your sales team.
Still selling. Yeah, doing a deal right now with Brent.
Yes, we are
awesome.
doing a deal. I don't see how you have time to do all this.
I just don't
we'll dive
understand.
into
And a
that.
7-month-old baby on top of
That's
all
what
that.
we were talking about that too. It's like, I think he has a kid too.
Yeah, brand new.
That's awesome, man.
How old is the kid again?
7 months. 7
7
months as
months.
of
Congrats.
Monday. So yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Your hands are definitely full.
Love it, yeah.
So wait, I always like to get granular with this because like I'm from DC also. So you're from DC. Where in DC? Like where'd you grow up?
So grew up in Silver Spring, native Washingtonian.
All right.
Went to high school, St. John's College High School, college, Georgetown.
Yeah.
Live in Northeast right now. So live in the city proper. Live in Michigan Park.
That's DC? That's very DC.
Yeah.
So you never left the Beltway.
Not really. No. Well, born in Georgia, moved up to Silver Spring when I was 6. And my dad worked down on Connecticut Avenue, so would do that and had to take the bus down to St. John's, the S2 and the E4 as a kid. So yes. Consider myself a native Washingtonian, but also know enough to not say like I was born in a DC hospital because that's the actual native DC folks.
See, Brent, that's me. I was born at Sibley Hospital.
That's a real thing.
Okay, that's legit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So yeah, let's just go back to the beginning. So all this DC stuff is awesome, but like, how did you get into real estate? Like, where are your beginnings in real estate?
Yeah, so graduated from Georgetown in the summer of 2008. It was May. I was supposed to have a job working with Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, who was a new professor. Right. I'd kind of finessed my way into being his assistant. Got to like answer the phone, talk to Jay-Z's publicist, KRS-One. Thought I was big time, big shot.
So what was your degree in?
My degree was actually in studio art with a focus on photography and digital art and a minor in theology. Go figure, right? My mom was like, I paid all this money for Georgetown and you're going to come out with that? Like, what is that going to do? So didn't really have a plan. Had said tangentially I'd go to law school or do something else. Had about a 2.6 GPA and didn't really love to read books. So that probably was never going to happen. My best friend's mother, who was an agent at WCNA in Miller and bought the house that we lived in right on 35th Street right before our senior year, was like, you could be really good at this real estate thing. You're local, you know folks, like you should give it a try. So when that job didn't turn out with Professor Dyson, she and Nathan Carnes, who's was the manager at Miller, I believe he's retired now, helped sponsor me for the first couple $100 to get my license there, and I passed the test in July of 2008. So I got licensed right away, but I still had a way to pay my bills with nightlife stuff, as we were just talking about. I had a DJ business, and I was a server at the Tombs in Georgetown. I was a Top Gun server and bouncer and everything there, so it was dope because I could have my night times filled with enough money to pay my rent while I'd be hustling and trying to figure out seminars and open houses or whatever during the day. So I've been licensed continually since 2008.
Are you still DJing?
No. Well, actually, I get to kind of dust off.
When would he possibly have time?
Well, you put that on the resume. I'm like,
well, it's funny. You talk about like what do you do for pleasure, like what brings me joy. I was just in Chicago for some NAR stuff last week. So whenever I go out, I'm always geeking out about places with good sound system, good remixes, stuff like that. I will get to in October for the Iowa Association of Realtors. My friend's getting installed as state president. I'm going to get to DJ at their installation.
Awesome.
So I'm actively working on my playlist now because that's perfectionist type A people know I can't just show up without preparing. And I do have some residual gear in my basement that I've bartered most of the rest of it for home renovation projects and stuff over the years, but I got enough for one party, still got a playlist, still got some tables, so I look forward to busting them out soon.
Wait, but do you still DJ on vinyl or with what?
No, so since I started in really like 2009, I've been digital from the beginning. I bought turntables, but you got to remember, my venues were Old Glory, Thirds, Old Basement, Mighty Pint and Mad Hatter, like pretty grimy bar places where tables don't make sense because the drunk girl's going to bump them. So I always had digital controllers, and I've got a smaller controller now just for space. But when I was back gigging consistently, I had a full-size one with a flight case and all the other stuff and lights. And I mean, I had probably like 10 grand worth of sound equipment in my basement at my first house. I used to lug around from place to place. And even now for clients, because I've got professional sound equipment, we say if you are going to have a housewarming party and you want to borrow a speaker, let me know. Like I legitimately have speakers and lights that could do a pretty awesome house party.
That takes a lot of dedication, that nightlife, where especially when you're carrying your own gear and everything. So I think I'm a musician also. I went to Berklee College of Music. And I used to do DJ and all that, but like most recently I was in a country western band about 5 years ago. Yeah. And I played steel guitar, and carried a Fender twin amp.
Oh my goodness.
And so, you're loading all of that, set up everything, then unloading at like 3 a.m. and then get up the next day and go do real estate.
Everybody wants to hang out. It's like, oh, let's do this. I'm like, no, I've got to put all this stuff and go home. And I remember I did an event at the Howard Theater before. I'm loading stuff in the back of my car, and I get like ripped off for all my things. I mean, it's just like life in the city. So you like learn how to do. But the problem solving, the improvisation, the connection with people, the reading the crowd, like there's nothing like it. So I look forward to a time when I can build in doing more music. Right now I don't have as much time, but I joke and said I'm going to strap my baby to my chest and like be practicing on Zoom or on the internet one day, because I think I can go viral that way.
I think that would definitely go viral.
Absolutely.
For sure. So tell us about Coalition Properties Group. Tell us about your team.
For sure. So we came together in 2019. Me, Keith James, and Ryan Butler. I actually know Ryan Butler because we played football together at Georgetown. He's one of my best friends. I've known him for, I guess, coming on 17 years now. He got into real estate in the Keller Williams system in my downline in 2015. And he tried to have me be his agent because he was doing some flipping and investing. But I didn't want to give him the time of day initially. But then he came in and was helping me as kind of a buyer agent and supporting me a little bit. I was growing my own team. I had my own small team, me, one admin, one assistant. We were about a 25 mil, 50 unit operation, so we were doing pretty well. But when Ryan came to me and said, hey, what would it look like if we combine forces? Like we could do something cool. And then Keith, who's our third partner that only came in 2018, he is the most natural attractor, driver of opportunity in business. Like he's going to get to almost 200 units himself from not really marketing, just like attraction and people earning him referrals.
Whoa, that's really good.
Like he just hits the ground running. He had a background in sales with 3M, and he moved to the area. So we were all kind of having disparate conversations with each other. And then we all sat down together in like the winter of 2018 and said, hey, what would this look like? Keith, you're here kicking butt, getting started. Ryan, you've got these ideas as a builder. And I was looking for an additional kind of leveraged operation to grow bigger than what I was able to do on my own. And it was really Ryan, who's the whiteboard mastermind that has org charts and studies and is just a student of the game of how you build big teams. And Keith as the driver that just wanted to be a part of something bigger, and me that was looking for the right partnership to be able to leverage and grow. We came together. And in 2019, that first year, I think it was only around 70 mil and like 160 units. Then 2020 happened, and everybody had the explosion and big opportunities. And for us, I think we got north of 300 units in that year. And then last year, we were right around 330 units. So we've been able to, through a higher unit count, leverage and grow and have the correct administrative support new agents that are coming in to join us, and do some really awesome stuff with the events that we throw to attract opportunities.
So going into your team, so there's 3 team leaders.
Yes.
What's the makeup of your team below the 3 leaders?
3 leaders. Right now it's 9 agent associates. We don't call them buyer agents or listing specialists. They don't really have specific titles right now. It's 9. 1 buyer, or I guess we call him showing specialist, that supports Keith directly with a lot of his agents deals, and then 8 salaried admin with 2 virtuals right now. And that salaried administrative pool has, rotated a little bit, and as things are tightening up, we're looking to kind of be a little bit more efficient with it. But it's really a listing department and a buyer department. Our listing department has a listing manager, listing coordinator, project manager, and then a virtual that supports them. So that's 4 on that side.
Wow.
The buyer side has our lead buyer coordinator, who is just a machine and works at the same pace as Keith. And for those 200 plus buyer deals, she touches all of them, which is magical. And she's got 1 assistant and a virtual that support her. And then outside of that, we have a marketing coordinator that kind of floats and helps us with back-end CRM system stuff. And we had a marketing company that was helping us in kind of a consulting fashion. We're rolling back from them just, with market shifts.
That's good. So you mentioned a CRM. Do you guys have one CRM for the entire group, or do you have individual CRMs for each agent?
So right now we're with Brivity. Brivity is the main system for everybody. We've been actively transitioning to that since about mid-2021. When we started out, we were all in Follow Up Boss, and have worked to incorporate some of Keller Williams' internal command CRM, but just with the size and what we kind of needed, it didn't work. And the reason we switched from Follow Up Boss to Brivity was having both contact management and contract management in one place. Follow Up Boss was awesome. I actually loved it for contact management.
I've been using Follow Up Boss lately, and I of course, it's like when you get really busy, it's hard to go back and check it. But when you have the time to look at it, I think it's a great tool. So.
It is. No, and it worked for us. We just wanted to kind of have everything in one place, right? Because it's like we got a Google Drive, which I love and works well, but then we got Follow Up Boss here, and then Sisu was tracking numbers, and we had like all these different things. And that's my partner, Ryan. That is his mind that is dedicated to the operations and back end of stuff. I try to use it, but I'm more of the training and people and the back end and CRM stuff. So
right,
everybody's got their specialty.
They do. Yeah.
You're definitely the people person if you're taking on all these roles with the different organizations.
And Keith is the sales driver attractor. Like he will do the most units just by osmosis attract. Like he just attracts stuff, and then we think how we can better empower him with some of our marketing stuff to tell the story and attract even more. I always joke and say there's 2 ways you can generate business, either with a spear or with a net, right? Like how are you going to hunt? Keith is a mix of a little bit of spear, but I'm more of the net guy. I want to put the right stuff out, attract opportunities, and create a good system that will catch them in the net behind us.
So you were talking about your marketing. You were shifting from one organization that was helping you and everything. What are your key marketing touches? Like, what are you using mostly right now for marketing?
Well, as I told you, I have that background in nightlife and hospitality. Even when I had a small team, my biggest driver of events, a biggest driver of opportunities was events. So we did a 3-year anniversary party at Mi Vida at the Wharf this past March. That had about 380 people come.
Wow.
Now, in addition to being an awesome party, open bar, DJ, we always incorporate a couple different and important things. For everybody that comes, clearly we're tracking them, like within the CRM, within different systems. If you bring a guest, that guest needs to connect with us right at the gate. We collect all their information, and we try to set up appointments. So from those 380 or so people that came, it was about 22 appointments that were set and 11 that were confirmed. Of those 11, it's equaled about 7 pieces of business so far since March. Okay. So you look at the higher expense of an event like that, but 7 deals at our average price point kind of pays for itself.
There you go.
We also incorporate charity in a high way to all of our events. So like for that one, because March is Women's Month, we worked with the Salvation Army and a shelter that they have. I just want to always maximize the opportunity to get people together and tell that story, right? Because people can help with either time, talent, or treasure. And yes, we're going to be raising some money, but we're also going to be raising awareness and getting people to sign up while they're having a good time. So our primary attractor of more people to our universe is our events. And those events give us touch points and give us reasons to reach out and invite, because even if people don't come to the event, we want them to feel directly invited by either a leader or one of our administrative staff. We do have one ISA. I don't know if I mentioned that. And our ISA just kind of calls and texts and invites people to our events. Mm-hmm. And then the marketing afterwards. So really cool videos, really cool photos shared with everybody through our social media, through our newsletter. So they get some FOMO. And the next time an event comes around, around, they're going to want to come and be a part of the good time, plus the good we're doing for the community. And the last pitch, the thing that we added to this event, was highlighting local Black women-owned businesses, because it was also Women's Month, and raffled off for attendees some type of service for them. So one was a urban farmer, helping people like create your garden and plant cool stuff in your house. Another one was an organizer. Another one did like digital renderings of your house. And the last one did like interior design and a consultation for interior design. So it's like a lot of different things at once. Yeah. And this is my brain. Like, I really am the event nerd, and I like to put that kind of stuff together. And a bigger organization gives us a bigger platform to do bigger and cooler events.
Yeah, I mean, with all your experience with events, you've seen, if you were working in all of these different types of events, from clubs to like private events, you could seen it all. So you're I know how to put this together.
Oh yeah. And you need a good team to help you do it. So like, that's where our admin team, like for the scale and size, like anything, if you're over a 20-person event, like you need some brains. So 380, like, yeah, it was great, but it's also like, I'm so grateful for my team to bring stuff like that to life.
When the vendors you have it's strategic as well. So you have like you said, the rendering of a house, the interior design. So everything is like real estate related. So it always indirectly comes back to like, maybe I don't like this house anymore and I want to sell, or maybe I need something bigger and better.
Resources, right? Like, I think realtors at our best are connectors of people, and the pool of folks that we just kind of are connected with through doing business. I'll try to be thoughtful and make sure that I'm always highlighting them and elevating them, because when they hear, like when our referral partners hear of an opportunity, I want to be the first one that comes to mind, because they know I've been, elevating them through our platform too.
So you guys are clearly crushing on the units turned and the volume, doing great business. And now you are sitting atop these esteemed and essential real estate organizations. First question is, how do you manage the time? Like, where does this come into play with all the sales business? Because I mean, we're salespeople, and it's just a lot to keep up with just doing that, running a team. So how does that fit in?
Well, first, like on the ground sales with our buyer clients, like that's where our agent associates really support me. Like, I would not be able to be out here, closing buyer deals without other people that help with showing. So we got a pretty good infrastructure where I am always taking on the consult, like that first point of business, buyer consult or seller consult, and then in that consult explaining how our system and team works and make our clients comfortable with everybody else in the organization servicing them at a high level. So that was a really important thing at the beginning of this year, to make sure that folks knew you're going to be serviced, you're going to be well taken care of, here's who's doing it, they've been directly with me, like making them feel good. And as y'all know, for some referrals, that can be a little sticky. Like if it's your third or fourth time working with them, they're going to be like, don't hand me off to this other flunky, like I want you.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's been a continued journey for me to both frame that correctly, but also prepare my folks and make sure all my folks in my team know, like, hey, this is a big deal. Like, the person you're working with, even if they might stress you out a little bit, might be a little annoying, a little needy, it's been years in the making to this relationship. And you getting paid, I'm getting paid, our whole organization grows with it, take good care of them. So it's like balancing both sides. So point one, team helps. Point two, I've never really had a lot of downtime in my life. Even when I was an undergrad, in addition to the DJing and nightlife, I played football at Georgetown. I ran a bunch of community and campus organizations. Like, I've always been a plate full guy in every way, and I really don't know what it would be like if I didn't have a lot of things on the plate, right? This is a lot now, and a lot of these things I'm involved in now, with specifically within realtor organizations, I've been voluntold, right? Like, folks tapped me on the shoulder and said, you need to do this, you need to consider it. And I'm always one that says yes first, and then afterwards I'm like, oh, what did I just say yes to? Even today, Keaton Podcast, I was familiar with y'all,
right.
I knew the name, like, cool, I'm all in. Didn't really know I had an idea, but I'm a say yes, figure it out, and trust the process kind of guy. And that's happened a lot. So I think those 2 points got through there.
But going back one step,
Sure.
You said you're a yes man, but like, why does someone pick you out to do these realtor organizations like the GCAAR? I guess you have to start with the board, and then you work your way up, and then you're on all these other boards. But like, was that ever a passion of yours, or someone just tapped you on the shoulder and said, get involved?
I think it's a continuation of that same energy. Like I told you, we like to get people together for our events, and when there's, common interest and connection and shared space, then like cool stuff happens. I do that to generate new business opportunities, but also within our Realtor Association, I was invited to a YPN event back in like 2012 or 13, and for local, and I went and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, but the music sucks. Like, I know if y'all thought about the music here, like this would make this
It would
sets
help
the
a
vibe,
lot.
sets the energy. So I go to the person in charge and I'm like, hey, happy to be here. Who's in charge of music, or who helps plan these things? They're like, oh, well, it's our YPN committee and you should get involved. I'm like, oh yeah, cool, I will. And I did. I followed up and got on the YPN committee, got to be a co-chair of a subcommittee on YPN, got to chair YPN, got invited to the board, and it's kind of this natural attrition, that's off.
Progression.
Progression, there we go. Succession? Something shun, right?
Yeah,
One of those shuns.
yeah.
And it all started from just a desire to make an event and a space and a connection opportunity better. And each kind of invitation up, I've seen, oh, well, this is a slightly bigger pool of people. And this last December, when I had my installation at the Anthem, that was like literally the biggest event GCAAR's ever had. It engaged more people than had ever come to a social or installation event before. And I know from years to come, people are going to be like, oh, man, like that was a great time. Like, I want to be a part of this.
What was the Anthem event?
It was the presidential installation. So in December, like at the beginning of each year when a new board's installed, you get to have a party and you do all the technical installation stuff and awards and have a party. And we had focused more on the installation and technical parts and not so much on the party before. And I'm like, hey, if you make the party more fun, like more people will come and they'll be curious. In the same way, my interest was piqued. We've had a lot more people that have shown up and now are going to be applying for committees to be involved. So that's kind of been the progression.
I remember the photos from social media. I don't know if it was the theme of the party, but it was like bring your social or bring your sneaker game.
Yeah, sneaker
which
ball.
was really cool. Everybody had their sneaker photos, wearing their suits and whatnot. It was
It's
cool.
a different vibe, different energy, right? Like give people a reason to want to come, because I feel like so much realtor stuff in the past has been like, I have to engage with this because I have to, right? Like it's on the other side of my forms.
Harrison, not to interrupt you, I'm just
Please.
saying, like, when I think of, I go back 20 years.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so when I think of the Realtor Association, I think of like a newsletter with the GCAAR logo on it, black and white photos. I mean, that's what still my brain goes to this.
Yeah.
Some office where it's like, I got to go buy a lockbox.
Yeah.
But this sounds awesome.
And what I've learned from and so to answer your question before of why the additional steps, the national stuff, when I've, earn some opportunities here and get invited to participate in national leadership or sit on national committees, I get to hear and see what folks are doing in other cities. We got some good friends in Chicago, some good friends in Miami, good friends in Austin, right? Like these other boards of realtors that do the same thing we do, but make their brand. Like the Miami Realtors made an award for their 40 under 40, okay? They've had it going for like 15 years. There are people that cry their eyes out like it's the Oscars when they win this award. And I'm sitting back, I got to go speak at one of their things a couple years ago. I'm like, man, what an awesome brand they've built. What an awesome community. Like, why can't we have that here? Like, I know the numbers that people put up, like the business that we do here, the really awesome stuff we do in the DMV. Like, why isn't our brand that strong? Like, why don't people want to be a part of this as much? So that's been kind of my board journey, is hope to elevate the brand here a little bit and make it be something that top producers and other dynamic folks want to contribute to, because when we share what we know and what we're thinking, it makes us all better. And I've just seen that example happen in other places.
Well, like I said, it's 100% makes everything better, but it's essential.
Yeah.
Like, we don't exist without these organizations.
Yeah.
The business doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Period.
Especially like you looked at the pandemic, like being able to be deemed essential, to be able to still go out and work. Like that was direct. And there's the fun and social and connection part. And then it's lobbying, right, which comes behind it. Like realtor associations at a high level, like directly advocate and lobby for homeowners and realtors. Like we have to help. Like there's no national association of homeowners.
I'm glad you said that, because that was going to be like my next question.
Yeah.
You can go into it a little more. That explain to our audience who may not understand, including realtors, what does a realtor organization do?
Yeah, so I've
Explain
got
that.
a bunch of, like a Finnegan's waitress here with all my pens, but the one at the top is our President Circle. So that's Realtors Political Action Committee. If you think about what all associations do, what all trade associations do, they collect the ideas and thoughts and understand the needs of their members, and they fight to protect them. So for us as real estate agents and realtors, it's about being able to do our job at a high level, reduce both, government barriers at every level, local, state, and national, to our business that we want to do, and to the people we need to help, which are homeowners. So you think about the 30-year fixed mortgage, right, which is the thing we just all take for granted. That literally would not exist without the lobbying gusto and fight of the National Association of Realtors, right? Like there's so many things that are just integral to the way we work that would not exist without this separate group that we pay our dues to. And people get upset like, well, every November I got to pay this, a couple $100 and this, like, what am I paying for? It's not just what we have to support now for the existing organization, but it's the legacy and history. You look at, things like FHA, like things that open doors and create opportunities for people to be able to buy and transact and to protect us and consumers from other unscrupulous actors, right? Like associations at a high level both connect to those resources, but then there's the code of ethics, which actually separates a real estate agent from a realtor that says we're all committing together to both protect this brand, protect consumers, and be good to each other so that we can conduct business and actually help the transactions happen and not get in the way of ourselves. So, there's so many layers. As you can see, I get excited and passionate about it. And the more I've learned, the more important I understood it to be, and the more I want to encourage more folks to be like, it's not just that thing I pay for. Like there's so much more that is both provided, but also so much more that you can get if you choose to show up and contribute your thoughts and ideas.
Does this guy sound like a president or what?
He does sound like a president.
Damn.
So, that's a question that I have.
Yeah.
You're very political in the real estate community. Has anyone approached you about running for like an ANC or, mayor or something like that?
No, not yet. When you
Not yet.
when you cut checks and support different candidates, because that's a part of this president's circle, is being able to say, I want to direct my PAC dollars to groups and outside of just the overall mission of the realtor organization, I can direct and say, here is this specific politician, this specific group that I would like to direct my funds to under this umbrella. Like when you do that, you start getting all types of calls from folks to say, give me more money. I like political fundraising for the ability to better understand where somebody's mind is at, that is your representative. Like even with not beyond ANC and council members, just our local representatives being involved here has gotten me the opportunity to actually talk to them. I serve on the mayor's Black Homeownership Strike Force because of my involvement with the Realtor Political Action Committee. Mm-hmm. So for me personally, probably not. I feel like I had a little bit too much fun back in college and living, and even if I took it off of Facebook, if you dig deep enough, I don't want those to come up in early Twitter, but I will be politics adjacent. I don't know if being the politician.
We can get all that scrubbed for you. They can do it.
Is that the thing?
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
The vetting process, right? We've got Harrison Beecher here on the show today. Harrison, a recent change in our local practice here. So our sales contracts here are on GCAAR, Realtor Association forms. That's our usual contract that we use. And there was a form in there, the financial information form, that we were always requested from listing agents to have our buyers fill out. It would have information, the buyers' names, obviously. It would have, I think it had, no, it didn't have social.
No, it didn't
that's
have
on
social.
that's a rental application.
Correct, yeah.
But address, it had income, it had source of income, it had, and then some just like sort of loose statements of accounts. So you could, if you had like 401k or savings account, people would just write on whatever they want. So that's now gone.
Yeah.
And I think that the explanation was at fair housing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the discontinuance of that and what led to that, because that was an essential part of getting, like, especially in multiple offer situations, so that sellers could review and try to understand where these buyers are coming from and try to make the most sound selection, so to speak.
Well, I think the whole conversation about the financial info sheet is hopefully forwarding an effort to move past status quo, right? There's been a lot of status quo in our real estate industry that has bias built into it, period. Just period, end of story, right? Like there is bias that is built in to a lot of the decisions we make, a lot of the things we look at, and we as a board of directors, as driven by our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, wanted to say we, as GCAAR, need to remove our name and stamp from a document that can possibly be used to harm. Now, I, as a listing agent over the years, have requested it in the past. By no means am I going to stand on a soapbox and say, I never used that form, because no, I did, because that's how I was taught. Like it was the way you found out if people had money or not to be able to perform. But when we thought about it critically and we had conversations with some realtor organizations in other areas, we really looked at that and said, what power does a self-statement of assets actually have? Right? Like what, is it binding? Is it actually, yes, you sign it at the bottom, but it's not verified. It's not like I could literally put anything on it and it looks good and sounds good, but what does it actually mean? So the reason why we chose to discontinue offering it as a part of GCAAR forms was to encourage people, if you are looking for a verification of somebody's ability to perform, you really have to get both your lenders to step up or seek empirical documents that are third-party verified outside of just a self-statement of assets on one place. Was it convenient? Possibly. Was it something we were always used to using? 100%. But as we move forward, we want to move past these things that were just status quo and convenient, because there might be some cases where somebody trying to compete that wants to do everything to win puts all this information on a financial info sheet. And as we know, DC has even more protected classes than some of our other jurisdictions. If a seller sees that and then decides not to sell to that person based on something outside of the money there, and we as realtors are a part of that, that's a problem. So we can't stop what brokers choose to use. Like, we can't stop if someone is, trying to still create something like that on their own. But we made the decision as the DEI committee and board of directors that we don't any longer want to provide this document to be able to be the conduit for potential discrimination or for potential bias overtaking just empirical and financial ability to perform, if that makes sense.
It does to me.
I mean, there's I would say a lack of gray area there in understanding that when it's all put that way. But I think, like, when we first went over to, say, for our company's sales meeting, we were all like, well, now what?
Yeah.
But we've been offering all kinds of different documents as proof of, like, if you have a cash offer, I mean, you have to show some kind of bank statement or a letter from their mortgage, or not a mortgage banker, but a banker,
private bank. Give me somebody
lawyer.
I can call. Yeah. Like, if I say, hey, Max, I want to buy your house, I'm good for it.
Right.
That literally, that's kind of what, that's not exactly what a financial info sheet is, but that's what it has been. And I'm not saying, like, most of the time the intention of folks, because there's a really good professor, Dr. Eddie Glaude, that spoke at NAR's Leadership Week last year, and he encouraged people to think past our individual intention as this overarching thing that corrects for bias and systemic racism. Because, like, we can mean well, and we can say, look, I don't want to do that, I don't mean to discriminate, but if there are systems, and there are, financial systems and money systems which have a lot of things baked into them that disadvantage certain folks, and we continue to just propagate and go with the status quo, then that's a problem. And that's, I'm really proud of our board and our DI committee for making what is a challenging, decision, but also the bigger challenge for us moving forward is to explain it and give context now and to say, hey, when you're serving your seller, absolutely verify that the money's there. Like I said, in the deal we were doing, it made sense because I saw the bank statement. It's a very real thing. That's black and white. If you had just provided, or they had just provided a financial info sheet, I would need more. So why even have that as an intermediate step and go to the proof?
All right, this question is not meant to sound obtuse, but I want to, so I'm just thinking, you're talking about bias is inherent, right? Yep. What about just someone's name? Yeah. Because if you have someone's name is on the contract, 100%. It's like name, maybe you get their spouse, so you can find that person online very quickly.
And we know they do. Our seller and buyer
That's what
clients,
they do. They're Googling them.
They Google them, they LinkedIn them, they look them up. They do all that.
Immediate bias creation, like instantaneous. Yep. Like, oh, they look like they're just starting out, or they're not married, or whatever people think about all these different things. So and I'm not saying that you're like the spokesperson for anything like with, I don't know how to put it, but I'm not saying that you might have an opinion for going further on this. I'm just saying, questions about this? Does this ever come up with the association as well?
No, it does, man. Because, I mean, again, if you look at, I think 2020 was a reckoning time where a lot of us were forced into difficult conversations about race and bias and implicit bias and systemic racism and all these terms that have been kind of charged before. But I've been fortunate to, through a lot of my national connections, to be able to speak about this and learn more and just have smarter people than me kind of break it down. And I think, like I said earlier, when people get past our bubble in DC, we're so fortunate that we do get to interact with a lot of different folks, right? Like, and as realtors, we get to interact with a lot of different people, and it is within our business interest to serve and service and help more people. Not all of our clients might think that way. So, if there is going to be implicit bias that folks make choices off of and act off of, I just want to empower us as realtors involved in the transaction to hopefully let them, or give them the tools to think past it, or acknowledge that it's there and say, hey, let's think a little bit more about this and about the impact of your bias or your lack of experience or interaction, but do it with some tact and grace that isn't accusatory. Because if you come at someone and say, oh, you intended it, like, that's never going to move anywhere. But I think we're hopefully moving to a space just as a nation where those conversations can be had with a little bit more thought in a little bit better frame. And generationally, like I'm 36, my younger sister's 25. I look at like Gen Z and Gen Alpha behind them, like a lot of the stuff that we operate with and status quo and bias and stuff that's built into us, the generation behind us doesn't have hardly any of that, right? Like it's completely different. So I'd argue that as salespeople and as folks that want to keep staying in this business and helping up next gen, we really have to change the way we think and operate a little bit to be more open and to be open to some constructive criticism that maybe I need to think or operate different. So that goes back to the form of saying, how do we remove actual structural written things that could give a higher probability of it? And when it comes up to us and our clients, do we actually have the tools and ability to navigate people through?
Maybe in Max's practice it's different, but for us in our group, doing this since 2005 or 6, I very seldom, if ever, used that form unless it was an old school agent saying, we're in multiple offer situations, I need this. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, even when they do, I would say the client isn't willing to provide that information. Call this lender, call their CPA, call their wealth manager, what have you.
But a lot of listing agents would have their top sheet on their disclosures and it's required.
This is it, yeah.
I would never fill that out unless it was a multiple offer situation, but I would never fill that out.
And again, we had to promise our firstborns to help people win in 20 and 21. Right. So it was like, I'm going to give you whatever you ask for. But even when I would explain that form to my buyer clients, I would say it's not worth what, like, don't put your account numbers. Like, because a lot of our folks that work at Department of Defense, state, are like, I don't want to give them all the, I can't say where I work, right? So, I'm glad we were able to push that through, and I look forward to more opportunities to hopefully explain and give frame and challenge our brokers to educate people on the other alternatives that give empirical financial proof, which is what you should use to decide who you're going to sell your house to.
So, moving on to another topic. So you're out there in front of so many different realtors now from your organization and also from being in the different realtor organizations and then also with your team. What's something you hear from a lot of new agents right now? What are new agents concerned about when they come to you and start asking questions about getting into the business, what to look out for? What kind of advice?
I was just talking with my partners about this because we've got some pretty young agents that just started on our team. Young meaning like 25 and under, right? And I love their energy. I know we need it, and I want to build an organization that can, be a home for younger agents to find. It is very interesting, their kind of recent lament of like how things were. It was like, I was looking at the sales history and man, if I were just buying in Riggs Park 5 years ago, it would have been half the price. And I try to help them get past that, like, focus on what you just missed, because I'm like, because if you feel that way and your clients come to you that way, like that's a conversation that's not productive, right? It's like, how do we actually help you navigate where you're at now and find it? And yes, things are more expensive, right? So like there are more challenges now, especially with inflation. But I want us to be a little bit more solutions oriented, and I feel like a stodgy old man saying that, but I want us to be a little more solutions and kind of forward oriented than like, from where we were in the past. But also the encouraging thing I hear from them, like I said before, is just a willingness to try and do and go. Like, you think of TikTok, which I know you're kicking butt on and doing awesome with, like looking at different methods to connect and educate and teach and to actually break down some of the things we used to not talk about, like compensation or like, how all the things within our business work. I love the newer kind of younger marketing trend, which is really transparent and open, that says some of the stuff we didn't talk about before, let's actually talk about it in detail, but I'm going to give you these little bite-sized details, which are the way people like to consume it. So I appreciate that about just kind of their marketing and communication mind, but I've been a little annoyed with some of that, lament and feeling like I just missed the thing, and why is this so much harder now? I'm like, but also your sales price is a lot higher now too, so if you get 2 of those transactions are a lot better than the 5 I had to do to get that same number 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah, they're tied to the same market. So
yeah.
So to piggyback off that, if you had to look back to 2008, what's the one piece of advice you'd give little Harrison?
Little Harrison. Well, I was actually a lot bigger then because I had a bad breakup.
Football player.
I was still eating like a football player, but was not working out at all. And babies help me burn calories now. I would go back and tell myself to not live as comfortably as I did with my big time DJ money and a little bit of real estate money on my rental, and go buy a place either east of the river, Kingman Park, Riggs Park, like one of these emerging neighborhoods where I invest and do activity, like sell now. I would go back and say, do it in 2008 while everybody's running away. Like, go buy it then. Like the fear that a lot of us have about some of that initial transactions, that initial investment, either in real estate or ourselves, we know that time is a solvent that makes that okay, especially if you keep doing the right things. And I would encourage myself to stretch it a little bit, trade off some of that comfort and ease of the renting and kind of shiny and fancy I had for some investment, because that would have equaled a lot more equity that I'd be in right now. But you don't know that, right?
You don't know that.
And
Right.
you don't have, and this is another cool thing, like, again, grew up in Silver Spring, went to Catholic and private school, had a very comfortable upbringing, but I didn't really have a lot of people in my life that understood all the rules of money at a high level, right? And gave the tools to understand how to invest and just the time value of money and how it goes, and that would encourage taking that kind of risk. So whenever I'm talking to younger agents or younger investors even now, I say, understand your appetite, understand your income, but being able to balance that risk equation early is going to be one of the most important things for you to be able to build wealth and compound over time. So I would encourage myself to push it and take a little bit more calculated risk early, because we know the results.
You said it all right there.
Awesome.
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
For young people in general, and
Yeah.
especially younger agents. Like, they're in the game,
Yeah.
right? You're licensed.
Yeah.
That means that you've got a big in already.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, you're gonna hear about things early. You're gonna hear about things first.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what the cost might be today.
Mm-hmm.
It's the future you're talking about.
And you've got so much less to lose too at that point. Like you think, like how we anticipate or think about risk when it's just us and we're solo. It's like, oh, well, now I might not be able to do that trip, or now I might not be able to have this thing. It's like, now you got kids and families and businesses. Like my risk profile, like I have the ability to do more, but I have to be more thoughtful with the risk I take because it impacts a lot more people. But you don't realize that freedom that you have when you're younger without having as many things tied to you and going on.
This is a loaded question. You don't have to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're wearing 3 hats. What are you most passionate about? The political side and the organizations you're involved with,
Mm-hmm.
running the team and helping agents grow their book of business,
Mm-hmm.
or helping little Debbie down the street sell her house or find the next one?
I'd have to say now it's probably because they are connected. Running our team and helping our agents succeed through both the lessons and opportunities and business that I create informs a lot of the stuff I'm able to think about and do and talk about at the association level. So while I'm not as passionate or as on the ground every day with people, because our organization does that, the things I get to do and succeeding through others helps it achieve and accomplish really awesome stuff at
Right.
that on the ground every day. And the things I'm able to see in the team and at a higher level informs what I'm doing on the Broker Engagement Council, what I'm doing with GCAAR, because I'm seeing and actively experiencing what's happening in the business. Like these last 180 days with rate changes, with like our pendings are down significantly right now. And it's cool because I'm, cool, not cool to be down that much, but it's an awesome perspective to be able to have, because I'm an active practitioner and I understand what other agents, like the emotions that we're all feeling about the next, like I'm literally buying and selling a house right now too. So I'm like in the market myself. So all of these different things that both our clients are feeling, my agents are feeling, and other agents in GCAAR are feeling, like I feel it. Like I'm not, there's no ivory tower, there's no, throne or something I'm sitting on. I'm in the trenches, and being able to operate and work within the team gives me that awesome perspective on both ends.
Well, Harrison, you crushed it here. That was an incredible interview. We really appreciate having you.
My pleasure.
And taking some time out of the incredible busy schedule too.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Right now, Brent's going to hit you with his rapid fire questions.
5 rapid fire questions. You ready?
I'm ready. And do I have the opportunity to give y'all some flowers and praise before we're done too? Because I know we haven't.
You can go
talked
ahead right now with
face-to-face.
that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, Max, what you've been able to do, the way you frame and show and make luxury and awesome stuff more accessible to more people is really cool. And I think it's a great representation of our region and both the coolest stuff, but just who you are as a person. So I've never told you that before, but I love
Really appreciate
what
that.
you put out there, and more.
Thank you.
And Brent, what you and Rob do with your team, like from an operational standpoint, the number of people you interact with, the units, the new development, I've seen that for years. And as we were building our team, you were definitely one of the, models we've seen for folks to do it, but you're still human, right? Like you're not like
Thank you for
completely
that.
separate.
Thank you.
So
No,
thank
that's
y'all both for that.
That's an android. That's Brent the robot right
Yes.
there.
So thank you for that. Much
sure.
appreciated. 5 quick questions here. What was the last live concert you attended?
K Tronada at the Anthem. He's a DJ that does really dope soulful house and other remixes. And
Okay.
that was like spring, it was like May maybe. Yeah.
You just got called into Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
What's your call sign?
Panther.
Pink Panther.
That's good.
I love it.
Immediate.
Because when you say I'm turning red right now, I turn pink. Yeah.
So you just won the Powerball. What's your next endeavor?
Oh, man. Where am I going? I'm going probably back to Cape Town, South Africa for New Year's Eve 22 to 23 because I did it for 15 to 16 and it was like best trip of my life. And it was just great food, great people, great times, great music.
Yeah, that's awesome. So great food. You get one dessert for the rest of your life. You can never have another dessert. What dessert would it be?
YZ's chocolate chip cookies, or actually I'll do one chocolate chip cookie and one M&M cookie from Wise Miller's Deli in Georgetown. End of story. I could eat them all day, every day. It's all I need.
You're very resourceful. So this next question, you're on a deserted island all by yourself. What's the one tool that you would take?
Satellite phone.
How are you plugging it up?
No, he's
It's
going
solar.
to charge. It's charged.
It's solar. It's solar power.
There you go. Yeah, there. Solar power. All right.
Calling for help and a plane. I asked before. I was like, a plane. Like,
Obviously.
Thank you.
thank you,
Harrison,
guys.
thanks a lot. We also always donate to the charity of our guest choice.
Okay.
Anyone you want to give a shout out to today?
We are working. Actually, let's keep it going with who we helped for our March event. The Salvation Army DC has a women's shelter that services women going through challenges. I'll send you the exact information, but it's basically the Salvation Army's women's shelter for DC.
Fantastic.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at keyedinpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Rabin Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRabin_properties.